Taking a little bit longer than usual, so just bear with me.
That's okay. And I apologize if I stop and rub my eyes in the middle. My allergies are like going crazy today.
Okay, so everybody, welcome to our sewing class Toolbelt program. I'm here with Maria Castilla today, who is going to bring you through the program. Sorry, I apologize for the noise behind me. I'm at the reference desk and we are still actively working here. So while we're doing the programs, I am still here doing that as well. My name is Amber Gagliardi. I'm a librarian here at the library. And if you have any questions throughout the program, you can send me a chat. Right with you. Okay, take it away, Maria.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Amber. All right, so today we are going to be making a gardening tool belt. But really, it's not just for gardening. It's a tool belt that you can use for really anything. I think, as I was mentioning before to you know, the people that got here a little bit earlier, I use this for a lot of different things. I use it for my sewing. If I need to put any like scissors or any pins or anything like that, just, you know, stash them in the pockets. The apron looks like this. I know it seems a little small, but it can be made in different sizes. So if you do want to work with a larger apron, you could totally do that. You just need a little bit more fabric, but the steps are the same, and it's just going to be the same process, only with a larger apron panel. So this is how it essentially goes, and it just goes tight around your waist, and it ties in the front, or if you want to tie it in the back, that's okay too. I like to tie mine in the front, and then you have pockets up here too. So, and again, the pockets, you can make whatever size you want, depending on what you're going to use this for. I know that if you wanted to use it for like holding your crochet needles, you can make them, you know, a little bit thinner. If you wanted to use it for crafting, you could, you know, make more than 3 pockets, of course. But yeah, you can use this for absolutely anything, and I just really, really like it. I'll show you the variation of it too. This is the one that I made that is a little bit larger. Okay, so as you can see, it just covers a little bit more of, you know, my lap area, and it just has bigger pockets. But it's essentially the same, just you know, a little bit bigger. But anyway, so today I believe you guys have kits, so which were, you know, nicely provided by the library today. In your kits, you should have 2 different types of fabrics. You should have a fabric with a pattern and a solid fabric. Now the solid fabric we're going to utilize as the body fabric, or as the apron fabric. Okay, and then the pattern fabric we're going to use for our belt and for our pockets. All right. Like I said, it's a very simple project. You could do it with anything. And of course, you can modify it as you wish. So you're going to need the fabric that came with your kit. And aside from that, you're going to need either scissors or a rotary cutter, depending on what you're, you know, used to or what you want to use. You're also going to be needing, of course, your sewing machine that's ready to go, a ruler, you know, so you could cut, and some straight pins. Okay. Other than that, I think we're pretty good to go. You might want to also get a fabric pen, or, you know, a little chalk pencil. I will most likely be using a magic marker. Do not use a magic marker on your fabric. It will be a headache to wash off. But for the purposes of the video and to maybe show you guys a little bit more detail, this works well for me, but definitely use something that is water soluble and that you can wash at the end, because you don't want to, you know, have bulky lines showing in your beautiful, beautiful fabric. Okay, so first things first, I am going to start by cutting our fabric. So when I prepped your kits, I did not cut the fabric to the size that we needed it. I just basically left you with the, you know, 3/4 of a yard and the other, I guess it was a 1/2 yard. So we're gonna go ahead and cut each now, so we have everything that we need. Okay, so for the solid fabric, you're going to want to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are 17 by 9 inches. So since it is a solid fabric, you really don't need to go crazy in, sorry, I dropped my measuring tape. Oh, also you might want one of these tape measures just to make sure that you have, you know, the right measurements on your fabric. But what was I saying? Okay, so you don't need to know anything about, you know, the right side or wrong side. It's just a plain fabric at this point. So all we're going to do is go ahead and measure out 9 by 17. And we're going to need 2 different pieces of, sorry, I'm going to close my window. My kids just got here. 2 different pieces of fabric. Okay, so we're going to go here. And for me, I like to cut, when I'm cutting panels like this, I really like to cut with the fold, you know, towards the top or towards the side, because that way, if I need 2 pieces of the panel, then I just cut along the fold, and that'll make me, you know, it'll just make my life easier in trying to, instead of, you know, trying to cut 2 individual pieces. So try to cut along the fold if you can. But yeah, so 17 by 9, so 17 long. So I have here 17. I'm going to mark it 17, and we're going to go 9. So 9 is going to be right here, and this is where you would be needing your ruler too, just so you can match up your 2. Okay. Okay. All right, so 17 by now. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my rotary cutter for this. I'm going to use my ruler. So I'm going to go this way first. Okay. And I like to turn my fabric just because I'm just more comfortable that way. So I'm going to go ahead, turn it, line it up with my mat to make sure that I'm making straight cuts. And of course, if you don't have a rotary cutter and you just have scissors, you can completely use your scissors. It doesn't really matter, you know, as long as you get the right measurement. And of course, if you were looking to make something a little bit bigger, you would just modify that measurement by however, you know, however big you want your piece of paneling to be. So like I said, I cut along and I, you know, left the fold. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my scissors and cut the fold. Boom. Now I have my 2 17 by 9 pieces. So I'm going to put this aside for a moment. Okay. And now my next piece of fabric that I'm going to cut is the pocket. So the pocket is going to be 17 inches by 6. So this one, let's see. So here I'd like to just point out that my fabric, the fabric that I chose for this project today, has a pattern. So as you can see, the pattern of the lovely cactuses is going horizontally. So when I cut my fabric, I just want to be mindful that you know, the pattern is facing the right way, because if I cut it this way, obviously when I try to put it on, the cactuses are going to be sideways instead of the right way. So you know, just try to be mindful when you're cutting fabric with patterns, just how the pattern really lies, just because that's going to make a difference on what your final product is going to look like. Okay, so so as I mentioned, it's going to be 17 by 6. So I just need 17. So since I'm doing 17 by 6, sorry, it's going to be 17 the long way and 6 the short way. So when I'm finished cutting, you're going to see my cactuses going horizontally. Okay, so 17 this way, sorry. It's going to be 6 this way. So for this, I like to really go with my width first. So this is 6. Okay, let me line it up. Okay, so I just want to double check if that's correct. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do 6. Sorry, no, see, practice what you preach, people. I was just about to do my cut on the 6, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't look right because my cactuses are facing the wrong way. See, I'm telling you, even us pros just got to think about things twice sometimes. Okay, so 6. All right, so that's 6. And it's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, so 17 would be right here. Okay. So here we are. I'm just going to make sure that this is definitely 17 inches long. Perfect. Wonderful. So there it is. Wonderful. So here is my piece of 17 by 6. Okay. And since it is 17 by 6, it should match ever so perfectly with my panel, like so. Okay. Which it does. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to put the pocket panel aside. And now we're going to cut our straps. So we're going to need 2 pieces of fabric that measure 4 by 34. Now I like to have longer straps for myself. So this is totally something that is customizable to you and to your body type. So what I like to do is you measure your waist or your hip or wherever you think you're gonna, you know, put your apron. I like mine at the waist, and you're gonna measure it out, and then you're gonna add 16 inches to that. So that way you are going to end up with the perfect amount of slack for you to tie your apron. The standard instructions for this particular project is 34 inches by 4, but You know, just measure yourself, double check that, you know, it's going to be enough. And then you can go ahead and make the decision on how long you want it. Now, for me, I definitely like a little bit more slack because I like to tie it around the front. So I decided to make the whole width of my fabric be the belt. So when I say the whole width, I mean we're going to leave this folded with the natural fold that it came with. So this particular fabric that I have here is 44 inches. So when you purchase fabric, they are different widths. And then of course it's the yardage. So when you purchase your fabric, you say, oh, I want 1 yard of fabric, but your fabric can be, you know, 44 inches wide, or it can be 56 inches. So it really depends on the type of fabric and you know, the brand. But yeah, just so you know, the type of fabric we're using right now should be 44 inches in its width. So that means that when I open it up, it's going to be 44 inches. Okay. So we're going to need 2 pieces of the 4-inch by the width of the fabric. So as I mentioned, the instructions say 34 inches. I like mine a little bit longer just because I like to tie it in the front. And if you do need a little bit more slack because you like to tie it a little bit more, or whatever the case may be, you should have enough fabric to cover you. Okay, so let's start this up. So we're going to go ahead and cut the 4 inches. Okay. Okay, and as I mentioned, I'm cutting so my fold is included in there, and when I open it up, it's going to look like this. So this essentially is 44 inches. Okay, and since I need 2 pieces, that's going to make it a total of 80 inches. Okay, so there's a method to my madness, and again, that's because I really like to tie my aprons in the front as opposed to the back. I just find it more comfortable for myself. But of course, if you want it shorter, if you want it longer, you can absolutely add it. My rule of thumb, as I mentioned, is measure your hip or your waist and then add 16 inches to that. Okay. So that's my tip of the day. And okay, wonderful. So there we go. We can put the rest of our fabric aside. And now you have your 2 pieces for the belt. You have your pocket panel, that's 17 by 6, and your 2 pieces of fabric for the actual apron body. Okay, and that is all the fabric we need for today. Okay, so from there, we're going to go ahead and start piecing our fabric together. Now, if I didn't mention this before, you are going to need an iron or something to press with, since a lot of these little pieces are going to be needed to like get pleated or pressed. So I do recommend an iron. Okay. I have mine ready to go. So if you don't have your setup, I'll give you a couple minutes and, you know, we'll go from there. Okay. Just gonna put this over here, bring my iron over. Now this is just standard cotton fabric. So I just put my iron setting to, you know, whatever the cotton setting is. But if you were to make this in a different type of material, just definitely set your iron to, you know, reflect that. Okay, so here we have our lovely pocket panel, and what we're going to do is actually from the top. Okay, so since we have a pattern, there is a top or a bottom to our panel, of course, because, you know, if we were to have it, you know, upside down, then, you know, our pockets would look a little wonky at the end. So the top is going to be the top of the fabric where, you know, your picture or your pattern is the right side up. Okay. Now, this particular fabric that I'm using has a wrong side and a right side. All of the fabrics that have a pattern on it have a right side and a wrong side. The right side is, of course, the one that's brightest, and the wrong side is the one that looks a little dull. It kind of just doesn't look as nice. So see, that's like the difference right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and flip our panel over to the wrong side. So the wrong side is facing us. And we also want to make sure that the top is, you know, the one that's facing up. We're going to go ahead and fold about maybe like 1/2 inch. Okay, and this is where we need our iron. Is we're going to fold about 1/2 inch from the top. Okay. And once again, I apologize if I keep rubbing my eyes. My allergies are just, you know, acting up today. I feel like with the nice weather comes the allergies. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so that's what I just ironed. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go ahead and fold that crease over. Okay, so excuse me one moment. Okay. Alrighty. So we're going to go in here. And you're just going to fold it over so your crease is, the raw edge is kind of hidden in that crease. So it's going to be about a 1/2 inch fold and then another 1/2 inch fold. And I'll show you how that looks like. Okay. Okay, so now once I'm done with that fold, it's going to look like this. Okay, so if I open it up, it's going to have the raw edge tucked into that little fold. Okay, so my apologies. All right, so now we have that, and we're just going to press it one more time just to make sure that it's just nice and straight. And I think pressing really helps you with anytime you need to sew a straight line, like a seam or anything like that, just because it creates a very crisp line, and you don't have to pin as much as you would if you were just, you know, willy-nilly doing it. Okay, I'm going to put my iron aside for a moment. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to edge stitch along this little pleat that we made, this little. Okay, so edge stitching, all that means is that you're going to straight stitch as close as to the edge as possible, and really that's what it means. Okay, so as I just mentioned, we're going to do a clean straight stitch, nothing fancy, just a straight stitch. I have my machine set at 2.4, which is the length of the stitch. Okay, and yeah, let's get ready to rock and roll already. So since we're trying to do an edge stitch, I like to face my fabric so I can see where the stitch is going to lie, because if I stitch on the nice side, on the right side of the fabric, I can't really see where the edge of the pleat that I just made is. So I just like to have it the wrong side with the pleat facing me, and that way I can gauge exactly where I am. Okay, whenever possible, do that, and if not, then you know, you could do it the other way. Now we are gonna use a 1/4" seam allowance throughout the project. Just remember, right now we're gonna be edge stitching, so that just means we're gonna be sewing a straight stitch as close to the edge as possible. Okay. Now, the other thing I did want to mention was don't forget to put in a new needle anytime you start a project. That's very important. You don't need to backstitch or anything like that at this point. We'll get there later. Okay, so here we go. Now, for those of you wondering about my machine, I do have a digital machine. It's a Janome Skyline S6. You don't need a fancy machine for this at all. This is just my fancy machine, but you can just use a standard mechanical machine. A brother, a singer, whatever you have on hand is fine. You don't need anything digital or anything fancy. Okay, wonderful. So I have just made my edge stitch. So as you can see, the stitch is right along where the pleat ends. Okay, and that's what I wanted. Now, once you've completed that, we can go ahead and set up the pocket panel. Okay, so this is where you decide exactly how big your pockets are going to be. You're going to decide how many pockets you're going to have, all that good stuff. I'm just going to press my fabric a little bit because it's a little wrinkly. If yours is okay, go ahead and use it the way you have it. It's just a little wrinkly, and I just press it a little. Okay. So here we have one of the body panels that we cut. And what we're going to do, we're just going to place the pocket panel so the raw edges meet and you have that nice pleated edge, you know, right in the middle of the project, right up the top. So here, as I mentioned, we're going to decide exactly how many pockets you want, how big you want them. So it just really depends on you. For instance, in my original sample, I have it with 3 pockets. But you know, I feel like maybe today I want to do 4 pockets. So let's see what this allows me to do. I also like to have a combination of like one bigger pocket than the other pocket sometimes. I feel that that accommodates different sized things. So if you want to do something like that too, you could totally do that. I'm just lining up my fabric as best as possible. Wonderful. And let's see. So I think what I would like to do is maybe do 6, 4. Maybe I want to do 7 inches for one, and then another 5, 6, maybe a 5, and then another little one. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do it. Remember, this is completely customizable to you. So go ahead and take a moment to really just take a look and, you know, see what you're going to use this for. See what your, needs are. Or if this is a gift for someone and you just want to make it like a standard size, or, you know, making it in 3 equal parts is good too. So it's really up to you. So I decided that I'm going to make mine with a bigger pocket and 2 smaller pockets. I think that's the way I want to go. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'm going to do this. Okay. So as I mentioned, you want to get your fabric marker or your chalk pencil for this. I'm using a dry erase magic marker. Please don't use that. So now the next step that I am going to do is I'm just going to pin my fabric in place. So I'm going to pin my pocket panel in a way that serves me. You don't have to go crazy with pinning. At this point, it's just really just to keep it in place a little bit, but you don't have to go crazy with pinning. So what you should have right now is your body panel, your pocket panel pinned, and then as you can see, I have my lines marked for where I want my stitching, my dividers to be in. So let's get started. So just a reminder, we do want to make sure that the right sides are showing. So meaning the right side of my patterned fabric, because of course the plain one doesn't. But if you're using 2 patterns, definitely have the right side showing. So it has a nice vibrant look to it. Okay, so all right, we are going to get started on our sewing. So right now I'm just going to follow the guidelines I placed for myself with my marker, or in your case your fabric marker or pen or pencil, and just follow those down. I like to start sewing from the top down, basically because I feel like when you start from the bottom up, sometimes it bubbles, and I don't like the bubbling. I don't like the bulging. So so I like to start from the top down to just ensure that there's nothing, bubbling or anything like that. And as I said, you just follow your guidelines for your dividers, and we go from there. Okay, so we're going to go over here. Okay, and here is where you will want to double stitch or back stitch. So you're gonna, before I start anything, you're going to back stitch right here at the top. Okay, and that's going to reinforce your pocket. Okay, so I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. All right, so we're going to start, and then we're going to back stitch, and then we're going to go ahead and start again. Now you don't have to back stitch on the bottom, and the reason why is that when you do finish your project, it's going to reinforce at the bottom. So don't worry about that part. You just want to reinforce the top of your pockets because that's the part that kind of gets the most strain. So we're going to do that. So I just did the one. So as you can see, started from the top, I back stitched, and then I went straight down again. Okay. So we're going to do the same for my other divider. Alrighty, so at this point, you should have, I'm gonna take my pins out. You should have your apron body panel and your pocket panel sewn together. So as you can see, these are just open at the ends because we didn't secure them yet, but we're going to do that in the next step. So just to show you, this is what I decided. One big pocket and then two equally sized pockets. I just thought that was going to look best today. Okay, so now we're going to take the other body panel, okay, and we're going to place it right on top of the right side of the pocket panel. So we're just basically creating a pocket sandwich at this point, okay, and we are going to line up everything as best as possible. Okay, as best as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. It gives a lot of room for error. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pin. I'm going to go one up here, one down here, and I'm going to do the same for these. Okay. Okay. All right. And at this point, what I would like you to do is just double check that everything is in the right place. So you have one body panel, pocket panel, body panel. Okay, so the pocket panel is essentially in the middle. And what we're going to do now is that we're going to go ahead and sew along the short edges, okay, and along the bottom, okay, and we're going to leave the top open. Don't worry about the top. We'll take care of that later. But what we want to do is go ahead and use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew around the sides and the bottom, okay? So it doesn't really matter which side you start on. I'm just going to go ahead and start on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and turn my fabric as I go. Okay, so here we go. No need to back stitch at this point either. It's going to get secured with the belt anyway, so no need to do that.
Maria, we did have a question. Did you
Sure.
sew the pockets in already?
Did I fill them in already?
No, did you sew the pockets in already?
Did. So basically what we did, and I'll show you. Let me just unpin this. So basically what we did is we went ahead and pinned our pocket panel to our first, like the one side of the I guess apron body, and we went ahead and we drew on our pocket panel the dividers that we wanted. Once we did that, we went ahead and sewed from the top to the bottom, back stitching at the top, those 2 or 3 or whatever lines you made for your dividers. And that's what we have sewn in place. So what I'm doing right now essentially is going to make the other 2 pockets, because when you're looking at this, essentially you really just created the one in the middle, and then you left this one open and the one at the other end open. So as I'm sewing right now, it's going to close those other 2 pockets. Okay, does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so here we go. Okay. So when I'm turning my fabric, I just go ahead and raise my foot, my presser foot, and I just go ahead and turn my fabric. Needle always on the down position when you do that, so your fabric doesn't shift. And then we keep going. Now, I wish I could get you a better view of what I'm doing on my sewing machine. Unfortunately, since there's so many components, I just wanted to give you one big, overview. But if you have any questions about what I'm actually doing on the sewing machine, definitely let me know. But it is just a standard straight stitch, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that's it. Okay, so I'm just going to remove my pins. I'm going to show you what I did. So I just finished sewing the sides and the bottom, leaving the top open so we can go ahead and turn the body of our apron. So I'm just going to show you, see, like that, and like this. Now you see that I have a little, something sticking out there. I guess I didn't measure exactly the way I should have, but that's okay. That's just something that I'm going to end up trimming anyway. Excuse me. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. So we went like that. What we do want to do is we're going to go ahead and cut the corners of each bottom corner. Okay, and that's just going to reduce the bulk. So just be careful not to get any of your stitching, because sometimes that does happen, and then you have to resew it. But this is what it looks like. See, I did it like that. I did it like that. Okay, so now we can go ahead and turn our fabric.
Maria, I'm sorry. I just have another question from Deborah that just came in 2 minutes ago. On 3 sides or 4?
3 sides. So it's going to be the bottom. Okay, so this is it's going to be the bottom, and then the 2 sides. Okay, you are going to leave the top completely open, no sewing at the top. So that way you can just turn it like a pillowcase. And then you have your body. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, Deborah says yes.
Okay, great. Alrighty, so.
And that's looking so nice.
Thank you. So this is what you're ending up with. So it's basically a teeny tiny pillowcase. And as I mentioned, the top is just open, but that's okay because it's going to be closed when we put our belt in. So don't worry about that. The important part is that you have, closed edges at the bottom and at the sides. Okay. And I ran my finger through them. Everything looks good. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and press all around. Okay, and then I'm going to run my machine again on the sides and on the bottom. All right, so we're going to go ahead and show you what I'm doing. All right. Okay. So like so again. Now I have pressed my project and it looks nice and neat on the sides. Nothing's bulky. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and do another straight stitch. This time we're just going to do it as close as we can to the edge. So once again, it's an edge stitch. That's what it's called. And we're going to edge stitch all along the two sides and the bottom. Okay, we do not want to touch the top just yet. Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, put my lever up, down. Turn it again. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut any little tail ends that are kind of sneaking by. Okay. So this is what we have. See? So it adds a little bit of detail to your apron. I always like to have a little bit of detail. I don't know, I feel like it makes it look nicer. Plus, I feel like it adds a little like extra level of sturdiness when you're putting stuff in. So now I'm going to show you. Like your pockets have been created, they've been reinforced. You can see what fits in there, it doesn't. Okay. But oops. Yeah, those are your pockets. Okay, so now we can put the body aside. Okay, and we're going to focus on our belt. So where did I put my belt? Okay. So here, what we want to do is go ahead and open up the fabric in its entirety. So remember we had it at the crease, folded at the crease. Now we want to go ahead and open it up, both of them, and we're going to sew them. So to sew them, what I like to do is I like to put them right sides together. Okay. And what this is going to do, it's going to create like a, sorry, give me 1 second. Let me do this. It's going to create a long strap. So again, you want to be mindful of your pattern. So as you can see, I have like the edge where like the printer leaves the little color cues and all of that. So my initial thought is, oh, let me just put them together and then that way I can sew them and you can't see them. But if I do that, you can see that my cactus pattern on one side is going to be one way and the other one's going to be another way. So if you don't mind that, totally cool. I kind of mind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up my cactuses so that they are facing each other the same way. Okay, so we're going to put right sides together. Okay, and we're going to pin in place. Okay, so I put the right sides together and I pinned it in place. So this is just going to create one big long strap. Okay, so all I want to do here is pretty much go ahead and sew. You can use a 3/4 inch seam allowance. I'm sorry, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, or you can also just go by, if you have one of these guys, one of these little printing situations, you can also just go along the edge there so it tucks it in, and I'll show you what that looks like because I like to do that. I don't like it to show. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say, let's sew here. Okay. Also, there is no need to backstitch at this point. There's just no need. Okay. So as I open up my fabric, you see that little color code is no longer there. So I have tucked it in into where I sew. See, so I sewed along there and it just tucked it in into the seam so nobody can see it. Okay, if you'd like, you can go ahead and reduce bulk by cutting a little bit of that leftover fabric, about a 1/4 inch. Okay, and then you just have one long piece of fabric. Okay, all right, from there we are going to need our iron and ironing board. We are going to press this into one long belt. So I will show you what that looks like. Ironing board. All right, so what you want to do is we're going to essentially be creating different pleats. Okay, so we're going to, and I hope you can see this, we're going to fold each raw edge towards the middle. Okay, and then we're going to fold again in the middle. Okay, so the first step is going to be taking each raw edge, folding it to the middle and pressing it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. Okay, so we're going to take one raw edge towards the middle. We're going to press that in. I like to do long sections at a time. I feel like that it's more efficient that way, as opposed to doing shorter sections, like both sides. So we're doing this, and then you take the other edge and you're going to press that in. Okay. So if you're wondering, this is actually the same type of steps you would do if you wanted to create bias tape for, a blanket or any project that you wanted to make your own bias tape for. So just an extra tidbit there. Okay, so the other thing that I like to do is that as I finish ironing, the ends, I like to kind of just roll it into itself so it keeps that that shape and it doesn't like open up. Okay. I find it very helpful. Okay. So now that this is pressed, you can see that it kind of naturally wants to, the fabric kind of naturally wants to fold into itself. And that's exactly what you want to do. You just want to kind of follow it the way it's naturally falling in. That way you're not fighting with the fabric. You're just, doing what it wants to do. Kind of like when you do your hair. You don't fight with your hair. You kind of just, let it be. Okay, and once again, I'm rolling it up as I go. And now over here, you're going to see that you're going to get to the middle of where you, first sewed that little crease. What you want to do is actually go ahead and open that up and press it in the middle. So I'll show you what I just did. So I opened that up and I just pressed it. It just reduces bulk a little bit. And that way you're not left with a big bulky seam. And then when you run it through the machine, it's not going to, kind of buckle in there. Okay. All right. Any questions so far about what I'm doing? Everything's good. How are you guys doing? Those of you following along. Okay. Wonderful. Okay, we're almost done. So it is a very long piece, but it's worth it. Let me hold this a little bit more. Okay, and now there's one more step that we have to do to this belt before we can install it. Okay, and I'll show you what that is in just a few moments. Okay. All right, so now you have probably finished yours as well. We have folded our raw edges inwards towards the middle. So now what we want to do is take that and just kind of fold it into itself again. So I'll show you one more time. So it went from being one just 4-inch piece of fabric to a 2-inch, about a 2-inch. And now you're going to go ahead and fold it again in half. And it's not going to be roughly about 1 inch. Okay. So I'm going to show you that too. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep that shape. So what this is going to do is that you're going to essentially sandwich your your body panel into the middle of this crease. And then when you sew it, it's going to secure everything and finish everything off. Okay. Okay. And be careful because sometimes your fabric can get hot. I just burned myself. There we go. Wonderful. So this is coming along. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a process, but I promise you, it's going to look really nice. And like I mentioned before, this is the same process as making bias tape. So if you do want to make like a blanket or, you know, a picnic blanket even, with a patterned bias tape, you can make your own. And it comes out looking really cool. All right, so this is what it looks like right now. So we folded it, 2 raw edges into the middle, and then we pressed it towards the middle. So now you did notice that over here I still have some of my you know, color coding from the fabric. So I'm just going to cut that because I just don't like it. Feel free to do the same if you'd like. I'm just going to cut that little snippet. It's really not going to do anything to my length. It's only like 1/2 inch of fabric. But we are done with our belt. So now it comes the fun part, the sewing part, where we're going to go ahead and install the belt onto our project. So what we want to do at this time is we're going to go ahead and bring our body out. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look for that middle part, that little middle seam that we sewed at the beginning. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually center that with our body. So what that's going to do is that just going to go ahead and perfectly center our project so that one side of your belt is not longer than the other. So I like that. Hold on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pin in place. So right here is the seam that I had made. That's where it is. And now you're going to take the top of your apron, okay, and place it. You're going to open your belt, right? Because it was folded in half, right? It was folded in half like that. You're going to open it so that the raw edges are exposed one more time. You're going to take your body panel and you're going to center it and matching it up with the seam of where we originally sewed the 2 pieces of belt to make that long one, okay? If that doesn't make sense, let me know. I feel like sometimes I don't make sense, but hopefully I do. Okay, so once we centered it, we're just going to close our belt again so that we have our body panel kind of sandwich in there, and I'll show you what that looks like. And when it comes to pinning, I like to pin with my pins kind of going straight up. I feel like that secures my fabric in a way where it's not going to make any bulges. And it also keeps me from pricking myself as much as when I sew. So I'll show you what that looks like. But of course you can pin whichever way you're more comfortable pinning. This is just my preferred. Because I feel like when I do pin horizontally, I tend to just get injured a lot. So let's do this. Okay. I'm just going to go over here and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay. So this is what you're looking at this point. So as I mentioned, I like to put my pin straight up. As I'm running it through the machine, there's nothing really going to prick my hand. So that's why I like to do it that way. But you can do it whichever way you'd like. So this is what it's going to look like. Once everything's sewn together, that's going to just become one piece and it's going to be great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to one of the ends of your belt, whichever one you want, it doesn't matter. I'm going to start with the one on the right. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just edge stitch all the way from this end to the other end, making sure that I catch that body panel and both sides of the belt when I'm sewing. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this because I feel like I'm being very messy today. Okay, have a lot of things to clear over here. And once again, we're going to do an edge stitch. If you feel a little bit more comfortable doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you can totally do that too. And here we go. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to one end and I'm going to start sewing. Okay, I'm going to go do. Now you're going to notice that the ends are a very interesting part. So you are either going to have a finished end with, you know, just the way that the fabric came, so it's not going to fray, or you're going to have an end like my other end where I kind of clipped it a little bit and it could fray. So what I want to do at this point is just go ahead and tuck that in. See how I did that? You just tuck it in and then you fold it again, and that's just going to make it so there's no fraying involved, and you're pretty much good to go. Okay, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to edge stitch as best as I can. Here you want to back stitch just because you want to secure everything just in case. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm just going to organize myself a little bit over here. I feel a little messy. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Okay. Okay, as you're going, you just want to make sure that, you know, you are catching the other side of your belt. But sometimes it happens to me where I'm just like, yay, I'm sewing. And then it's like, oh, wait a second, it didn't catch all the way. So I just want to make sure. Okay. Okay, so we're coming up to where our body is, and you just want to make sure that it's just tucked in nicely in there, and we're getting it sewn in. Beautiful. So at this point, I'm going to start coming up to all my pins. Now, here's two things. You can definitely put or leave your pin in if you like. However, strong word of caution, sometimes if you are sewing too quickly, your needle will actually hit your pin and it'll break it. So A, that's no good for the machine. B, it's completely hazardous because one of those things could fly into your eye and we don't want that. So I recommend taking out the pins as you go. You can leave them in there if you're sewing at a nice, slow pace. That way you can ensure, everything's been correctly and all that good stuff. But yeah, just be very careful with that because it can be bad for you, and it can be bad for your machine too. So just that little tidbit. Okay. All right, and here we go. Okay, beautiful. So, remember how I told you to have your machine ready? Well, I failed to tell you to make sure your bobbin's loaded all the way because I just ran out of thread. So I'm going to do the following, and I'm just going to go ahead and wind my bobbin. But I do have to say that I'm running out of the original thread that I had, which is a little purple one, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and then line my 1, 2, 3. Okay. What happened here? Okay, give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. I'm coming to the end of my spool, so sometimes the thread can get a little bit tangled up in each other. Let me see if I can correct that. There we go. Really? It's just not happening for me, you guys. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, when it comes to the end of your spool, it's kind of like a little bit annoying because it just gets stuck on the plastic portion. But I think I have enough bobbin thread to go ahead and there we go. Okay, so I think I have enough right now for my purposes to finish up the project. Okay, so that's another conversation to have, is your bobbin and your thread, because that's a completely different thing to tackle. But for us, for our purposes right now, I'm just going to put in a completely new spool of thread. Okay. And that's what I'm going to use to finish it off. Now for me, I don't really mind having 2 different types of colored threads right now, mainly because this is a sample for us. But if I were to make something a little bit more professional, of course, I would double check that I have everything that I needed. I am just placing a regular cotton thread in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put my thread through. And I'm going to load my bobbin, and hopefully this will carry me through the rest of our tutorial here. I apologize. Maria always has technical difficulties, I feel. Okay, so I left off over here. Now, if this were to happen to you, which, 9 times out of 10, of course it does, you just go ahead and you pick up right, maybe a 1/4 inch before, and then it's going to overlap with the other thread, and you won't have to worry about it coming undone or anything. But if you do want to, triple check and make sure that everything's nice and secure for you, you can go ahead and backstitch in that little spot, so it's definitely not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and match it up with my other stitching, and I'm going to say, okay, hello friend. I'm going to just backstitch a little bit, and that's going to make it all okay. Now here, and we're going to finish this up.
Hi, Maria. I don't know if you saw the comment from 824.
No.
I'm a few steps behind. When you
Okay.
sew the belt on, you
Mhm.
completely unfold it first.
So you don't completely unfold it first, but you kind of just open it up. So remember, the first folds are going to be your raw edges folding into the middle, and then that's going to go and shut closed. So what you want to do is open it up so the raw edges that were tucked in the middle are exposed. Okay, so you're still going to have one, like the two folds on each side, and that's going to kind of like sandwich in between your fabric. So let me see if I can show you with another piece of fabric. So let me just cut a little sample piece here for you. Okay, so this is what our strap was originally looking like, right? So that's our 4 inches. So what we did is we tucked in the raw edges towards the middle, right? And from there, we folded it in half again. So you ended up with nice, neat edges. So when you're putting your body in, you just want to open it for the halfway, so only the raw edges are exposed. You don't want to do it the whole way because then you're back at square one. So you just want to do it so that your raw edges are exposed. Does that make sense?
Yes, she understands. Thanks.
You're welcome. So let's finish this puppy up. And at the end, I just went ahead and backstitched to secure. Okay. Alrighty, so this is your tool belt. So as you can see, we started from the top of, or from one end, and we sewed all the way, and then we went all the way across over here and secured our apron panel, and then we went ahead and finished. Okay, so that in essence is it. That's all there is to it. Any questions? All right, see, there you go. And then you can go ahead and tie it. Again, I like to tie it around in the front. I find it nicer for myself. But that's basically it. And then you can put all your little things in there. Put your little, well, you know, your stuff. But yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know. And we'll go from there. What do you think, Amber?
No, it's okay. I don't see any other questions. Yes, I did. Hold on one second. Does anyone have any questions before we end the program tonight? Diane said she learned some new sewing tips.
Oh, great. That's awesome. I'm glad we could help out with that.
Deborah says, thank you. That was great.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. It's a fun project. Thank you for coming and joining me on such a lovely night. I know it's starting to get warmer, so,
Okay.
so thank
Well,
you
it
for
sounds like
coming.
everyone did well. So just as a reminder, we did record this, so it's going to be up on YouTube, which you can get to by going to mcpl.tv. Carrie also learned some sewing tips, and thank you so much. So
Great.
you could always go back and redo this project, share it with a friend who you think may enjoy this. So that's always an option as well. And Maria will be back for future programs. I know she's working on a couple related to our summer reading club theme right now, and we'll be brainstorming some ideas together. So keep practicing. Keep that sewing machine out from the closet and keep going. And if you think of anything after, you have my email address. I'm Amber Gagliardi, so you can email me, and I know how to get in touch with Maria if anything comes up. So we'll be happy to help you out with anything you're working on. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you soon.